Okay, so last one I'll show you guys, and there's different ways to do this, but typically you'll hear this called a baseball suture or a running suture. So you've made your first basic interrupted suture, but this time, instead of cutting this, we're gonna leave that alone. And if we were doing interrupteds, all you would have to do is cut this, and then you would have one stitch and you would go to make your next one. So once you've made your first basic interrupted, obviously this time you're not gonna cut it, and we're gonna leave the needle on, and we're gonna go about, again, 5 millimeters downstream. And this one, when you do these, you're gonna start at one end and work to the other. This, you cannot start in the middle. So when we do this, we approach just like we would the others. We make our approach about 3 or 4 millimeters from the wound edge and pop through on the opposite side, and we pull it through, and then we're gonna load it, and we're gonna keep going, this time again, downstream about 3 or 4 millimeters from our, 5 millimeters from our last point of entry. And we're gonna go this one again, and then we're gonna pull it through, and you'll start seeing how this looks kind of like a baseball stitch. And we'll go down again. Big thing is that each time you're going down about a width of an eraser, and so you start seeing how this goes. Now, question then becomes is, well, what do you do when you get to the end? So when we get to the last stitch, we come in like we normally would, we pop through on both sides, we pull that stitch through, but this time, instead of pulling it all the way through, we leave a little loop up there, and then we make our 2 loops, 1, 2, and then we grab it in the middle and we slide it down, and that's part 1 of our knot. And then we make another loop and we grab this tail and we slide it down, and now we've got our knot. And so you can see how you just go back and forth, over and under, grabbing that knot and sliding down. And so once you've done that and you've made 5 or 6 throws to lock it down tightly, when you go to cut it, you're gonna cut now 3 pieces instead of 2. And that's your running stitch in a nutshell. Now, the problem with this is if a stitch would break, let's say one stitch would break right in the middle. Now all of a sudden, this construct is no good and this construct is no good. If you have simple interrupteds and one stitch breaks, you still got a solid stitch above or a solid stitch below. So these are not real handy, although some of the plastics guys will use them, especially in low tension areas like the face. It's not my favorite in terms of just simple interrupted fixing a simple laceration, just for the potential of it to break and come undone. Plus it's a little more fiddly, but nonetheless, as I said before, if you've got a basic interrupted, that's going to be the bulk of what you're going to need in terms of day-to-day practice.